Hi everyone, this is Samit from TalksOnGround. Hope this finds you well. So, on November 5th, 2024, Donald Trump was re-elected to be the president of the United States. So, this is a very, very big event in geopolitics, and we are seeing a lot of repercussions of that. But today we are going to discuss something very interesting. I thought this is a very interesting dichotomy between Donald Trump and Narendra Modi. Donald Trump is the second time president-elect of US, and Narendra Modi is the third time Prime Minister of India. Both of these are in many ways very unique. In June 2024, Narendra Modi won the third time he became the Prime Minister, even though with a reduced majority. Now, why I'm calling them twins in a way is because they've had very interesting journeys, and when their terms were coinciding, many interesting things happened. And when Donald Trump was not in the picture, some other things happened. So we'll just go over that. The first thing which is very interesting about these two is that Donald Trump was born into money. He was born in a rich family. He had a rich father, and I read that it took him time to get his father's trust and become the main hire. On the other hand, Narendra Modi was born into what can be called like a poor family. He didn't have many means, and he used to help his father run a tea stall in a railway station. In India, in those days, that would not mean a lot of money. Donald Trump, when he grew up, and then he inherited his father's company, he expanded that empire, and he became a real estate mogul, or a real estate big star in New York. And his name was synonymous with money. On the other hand, Narendra Modi was unknown. He was pretty much a non-entity, and in fact, after his teenage years, he had gone off to the Himalayas, and he was trying to become a saint or something, but he was sent back. And he came back and he joined the much hated and much loved RSS, which is the Rashtriya Swamsevak Sangh, which is basically a right wing organization that does work on the grassroots. Now, on the one hand, you have this guy who's a real estate baron in New York, and there is this guy in RSS. The contrast cannot be more, because if you know anything about RSS, there's one thing that everyone will agree on, that it's a very humble organization. It doesn't have any flash, it doesn't do much media. At least back then, in the 70s, it really didn't do any of that. So Narendra Modi was really working in the grassroots. He was really behind the scenes. RSS doesn't make much noise. It goes to small villages, small towns. There is not much money. In fact, there is no money. And RSS Pracharak, which is what Narendra Modi became, would go from house to house every evening to have their food. So they didn't have even money to eat. On the other hand, you had Donald Trump. He could have any cuisine in the world at any point of time. Food was his last priority, because I won't say priority, but the last concern, because Donald Trump was born into money. He was more into glamour. He was a glamorous man. Uh, then he wrote a book. Then he started a media channel. He was in the media, not a channel, a show, which became very popular. At this time, Narendra Modi was cutting his running around, helping BJP run a campaign to get the Ram temple back in Ayodhya. Again, the contrast is like as much as possible between two personalities. Then in 2014, rather 2001, October, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who was the Prime Minister of India, gave the chief ministership of Gujarat to this general secretary of BJP, a decently big post for sure within the BJP environment and the ecosystem, but not really any administrative experience. So till 2001, Narendra Modi had done no politics at all in terms of holding any power. He was not even a MLA. He was not even a corporator in a municipality. So he had never really run his own election, but he has always been on the in the back end, helping people win, helping BJP win. On the other hand, Trump was just minting his millions and billions, going from bankruptcy to another $1 million or millions of dollars. And as I said, the contrast continues. From 2001 to 2014, Narendra Modi was the chief minister of Gujarat. And it's so funny that it is only around 2015 that we came to know that Donald Trump is going to run for the president of US. And no one took him seriously, leave alone the left liberals who were, there was Obama in office and you had Hillary Clinton, who was, because it was Obama's second term, she was most likely to be the next president. This is what was the received intelligence at that point. However, Trump came from nowhere, just like Narendra Modi in 2014. He came from nowhere and defeated Hillary Clinton, who was the establishment basically, and became the president of United States. In India, Narendra Modi had defeated the Gandhi family in 2014 May and become the Prime Minister of India with a majority, which was a big deal in India because for 30 years we had these coalition governments. So, having put these two contrasts, now we must also understand that when there was a coinciding of these two terms, Donald Trump's presidency and Narendra Modi's prime ministership, some very interesting things happened in India and even in the US and on the global stage, both in economic matters and strategic matters. Now, let's take the economics first. On November 8, 2016, is when Narendra Modi suddenly announced demonetization of the Indian currency, which led to a lot of chaos. People ran out of liquidity and so on. And surely, for a few months, the economy also didn't do well. In fact, for a few quarters. And some say that it hasn't really fully recovered, but surely it was supposed to be a surgical strike on the corruption and black money and terrorism and so on. This had started a few days after Donald Trump had won the election against Hillary Clinton. A few weeks back, India had done a surgical strike on Pakistan. This wasn't the Balakot strike, but the one done by the army. And later on in the term, when President Trump was in office, Modi launched the GST regime in India, which kind of made India a single market for corporates. Many will say that this was a way for Modi to create a single market of India without having different rules for different states. And for big companies, that was a big win. So in a way, this was a move to formalize the economy and to streamline a lot of the laws across states. So again, this was again done when Donald Trump was the president. And finally, the biggest thing that Modi did was in 2019 August, he reversed Article 317 Kashmir, and without really a protest or a whimper from the White House. And Donald Trump was the president. There was a lot of negative reportage in the Western media, particularly Washington Post, New York Times, and so on. But it was not really directed directly at the 370 decision, but it was basically pointing a finger at the CAA and the NRC that was supposedly coming in soon. And on the strategic front, there was this Doklam crisis in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, which was in the northeast of India, where Indian and Chinese armies were kind of face to face. And on the other hand, you had 2020 face-off in Galwan. Even then, Donald Trump was in office. He was in his last year, and he was embroiled in that whole impeachment process in the Senate and the Congress. So this was what was happening, and you can see that when Donald Trump was in office, there was a lot of focus on China because Donald Trump in 2017, the moment he came in, he started raising tariffs against the Chinese goods. Now, China was the factory of the world, and that sent ripples in the Chinese Communist Party, and the world has never been the same again. Even before Donald Trump left office, COVID had already raged through the world, and he left office in January 2021. Now, until 2021 January, India's strategic affairs were very well, you can say, well balanced, because on the Pakistani front, US was not supporting Pakistan much, and therefore India was getting its way, and there was kind of India could do whatever it wanted in Kashmir, and India was acting against terrorism and so on. On the China front, India was really aggressive, and that's what led to the 2020 Galwan crisis. But remember, that was under the uh, COVID scare or the COVID uh, hangover that was going on. And the Chinese might have calculated that India will not be able to put its forces as quickly as it can, as the Chinese can, but it miscalculated. And uh, so all of this tells you that um, on the economic front, India was able to do some very big things. UPI came after the demonetization. The GST regime really changed the way India collects tax and also the state finances and the central finances. The Kashmir decision completely changed India's strategic outlook. But the moment Biden came in, on August 15th, you had the debacle in Afghanistan where they left suddenly. And they left on what? 15th of August. Now, juxtapose this with the fact that the Bangladesh ouster of Sheikh Hasina happened on 5th of August. Now, 5th of August 2024 was the 5-year anniversary of India's 370 revocation in Kashmir. Now, a lot of people say Amit Shah and Narendra Modi are very, uh, they really like to do things on a certain date, and there is a certain pattern to what they do. Well, maybe the Americans caught up with it, and they did these two acts on these two specific dates. And it could have been 14th August, 16th August, it could have been 3rd August, 6th August, but they chose these dates. On 5th of August 2024, there was speculation that Modi will bring in the draft Waqf board bill, and he'll make changes to it. But nothing of the sort happened because India was busy sorting out the mess in Bangladesh. So there were a lot of issues in terms of the COVID supplies, the vaccine supplies, the raw material for it. There were issues with the deal India has done for the G engines for the India's indigenous aircraft program called the Tejas. So there were issues all around, and I'm not even mentioning things like attacks on India via these VDEM Institute and so on, saying that India is not a democracy and so on. So you can see that the strategic partnership that India and America had by 2023, by the time G20 was happening, was already starting to come apart. And the Chinese and Indian eyeball match in the Ladakh area and all over the Indo-Chinese border was still ongoing. But in 2023 September, just after the G20 had ended, the Americans upped the ante a little more when Canada went ballistic on the so-called Niger issue, and the Americans jumped in December 2023, 1 year back, alleging India had tried to assassinate Pannu, Parvant Singh Pannu, who's the whatever the leader of Sikhs for Justice, whatever. So the Khalistan issue came center stage just after India had done or staged, organized, carried out the G20 summit in India. This was just a month after India had landed uh, the Chandrayaan on the dark side of the moon, which was a big deal. No one had done that. And India did it on a shoestring budget. So if you see today, there is a massive gap between India and the US, and there have been attacks on Adani, for instance. And all of this has happened when Biden was in power. I know a lot of people. I have read reports about Biden being India lover and so on. It hasn't really borne out in the events that have happened. On the other hand, Donald Trump has been well disposed to India. He had a very successful visit to India, even though when he landed in India in February 2020, there were riots in Delhi. There were no riots before Trump landed here, and there were no riots after. So one wonders what was going on at that time. So therefore, I come to this final part as to what I'm going to talk about now is the fact that these two personalities who are really contrasting in the way they've been brought up, in the way they look at, they have grown up, in the things they have done to get into politics, uh, the kind of legacy they have. But at the same time, when it comes to strategic matters and in terms of the impact they've had respectively on India and US and together on Indo-US relationship is really remarkable. So in a way, they are twins because they are really going to do the right thing, is in my opinion. I'm openly pro BJP, pro like I'm a conservative. So you have to take it with a pinch of salt if you're a left liberal. But the fact is that there is not much wrong that Narendra Modi or Donald Trump have done policy wise. Even if you look at things like Abraham Accords or India's uh, helping a lot of countries during COVID times. What is wrong with that? What is wrong with peace, in fact? And that's the question that a lot of people ought to ask the previous regime as to what they were up to. Now, what I see going forward is that these two people in power, especially to 2025-26, will be pivotal in how the geopolitics of the world is shaped. Why? Because there are a lot of issues between India and US right now. A lot of people will say maybe they were very convenient for the CCP because they were able to kind of get over their biggest fear that India and US will come close. So that kind of has, in its own way, died down because, after all, India and US are now facing off against each other on many issues, and not just Adani or Nijjar and Pannu. So therefore, that partnership has really got a lot of cracks. But Donald Trump and Narendra Modi see the world a bit differently because they are not establishment people and they don't come from that establishment mentality. And therefore, both of these people have risen to kind of oppose this, you can call the deep state, whether in India or the US, whatever. However, you term the establishment, they're going to oppose the establishment. What does the establishment want? They're looking to expand the wars. And what Modi and Trump can do is they can kind of bring more peace together. Now, will they be successful? It's an open question. But isn't it better that Donald Trump and Modi are in power rather than two other people who would not be looking for peace? At least these two gentlemen will, or leaders, I must say, will try to come together and forge some sort of an alliance against a lot of wrong that is happening in the world. I'm not saying that they don't have flaws either in their policies or personalities, but the point is you have to compare uh, to what was coming before or what was the alternative. So India's alternative was Rahul Gandhi, and America's alternative was Kamala Harris. Now you can choose, of these four, you can choose the two best people to bring peace. I will surely choose these two, basis the 10 years of Modi and 4 years of Trump, and also what happened between India and US in those 4 years when Trump and Modi both were concurrently ruling India and the US respectively. So I think from here, whether de-dollarization, whether Israel Hamas conflict or Israel Iran conflict, Russia Ukraine conflict, supply chain issues, China, any issue you pick up, you will rather have these two in power. And I think they are going to do some very, very pivotal, um, destiny changing, world shaping things in 2025. Of course, only future will tell us what will come in the future. But I'll surely come back maybe in 6 months and review what these two have done together. Have they built on the legacy in from 2017 to 21, or have they diverged? I want to know what you think. Who would you have preferred of the four people I mentioned? Would you have Trump and Modi in power, or would you have Rahul and Kamala or some other combination in power? And what do you think their policies would have been? If you liked this video, please like it and subscribe and share. Thank you for watching. This is good night from Samit here from Talks on Ground. Bye bye.